Now, for more on this topic, Brent Fewell, founder of Earth and Water Group, joins me here in studio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's start with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We know that water and sanitation, access to them, is key. Why is that?
Well, it absolutely is. Well, first of all, safe, clean sanitation is important for public health. It's also important for local economies. If you don't have clean water and you don't have proper sanitation, you can't have those things.
Now, talk about some of the domino effects when a country or region doesn't have access to adequate sanitation.
Well, absolutely. The World Bank came out with a study that basically said lack of sanitation has an economic drag of $200 billion a year globally. I mean, that's just significant. Communities that actually do develop their water, safe water and sanitation, actually can have jobs. They can have a vibrant local economy. They have schools. And it's so important to have sanitation actually for education purposes, for girls that can go to school and get education. It's just critical for the vibrancy of those communities.
Obviously, this is a huge number, $200 billion, and that's per year.
Per year.
So how are we seeing that played out? Like, walk us through how we might see the effects of that played out.
Well, you're seeing it play out all the time, but I will tell you the UN has done a great job with the Sustainable Development Goals. There's many partners, such as the Gates Foundation, and countries are really focusing on trying to solve this problem. And over the last couple of decades, we've done a better job. But still, there are 4 billion people around the globe that do not have access to just basic sanitation, toilets and latrines.
And so also tell us a bit more about the infrastructure, because it isn't just toilets. Obviously, a lot goes into it, whether it's smart city planning, education, essentially just laying out the plan for a structure before you even think about it.
Well, that's right. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and certainly the urban areas require expensive infrastructure, but rural areas actually require different, more decentralized. There are smarter toilets out there, toilets that don't need water, and you have places where you don't have access to ready access to water. You're having toilets that actually can produce gas and energy for those local communities to actually use to power machines.
Now, you mentioned innovation. Just how big of a role is that playing, not just to meet the current needs, but the future needs? Obviously, we have a growing global population.
Oh, we do. And you know, the innovation is absolutely critical to help these communities address and influence their economies and again, the sanitation. So, you know, it's going to take partnerships. It's going to require governments to work hand in hand with companies and local communities to deploy these innovative technologies.
So give us an idea about the sort of progress that we've seen when it comes to improving access to sanitation over the last decade or so.
We've made progress, but it hasn't been as much progress as we've made in actually drinking water. And I think we're a little behind in the sanitation. And quite frankly, you cannot have actually safe drinking water unless you address the sanitation issue, because in so many areas, it's the contaminated drinking water that comes from human waste that creates the disease and creates the economic drain on these communities.
So then you mentioned that there's been more dramatic improvements when it comes to drinking water. Why do you think when it comes to sanitation, they've not kept up to the same degree?
Perhaps people don't like to talk about human waste. And it's something that I think is probably uncomfortable for some people to talk about. Here in the US, you flush the toilet and you never see it. In other countries, it's a different situation. But I do think there are some taboos associated with a topic that you don't have with drinking water. But I think those taboos are actually being broken down, and people are more freely talking about the challenges and what the solutions could be.
And so are there any examples that stand out to you in terms of countries that have been able to really improve their sanitation? Well,
certainly in India, there's just been a tremendous problem, and particularly large populated areas, the ghettos where there's mass number of people that don't have proper sanitation. There's a real focus on trying to find community solutions that are available to families, to multiple families that they could use, proper sanitation and have toilets where they don't have to go out in the open or actually walk a couple of miles to the closest commercial toilet.
Now, usually when people think about toilets, they don't necessarily think about the safety that surrounds them.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, in some countries, that's one of the biggest issues. There's still 900 million people around the globe that actually do not have toilets, that actually defecate in open areas. And this is it's a real danger in some countries where women and children actually have to go out in the dark and in the open and actually, use the restroom. And it creates enormous challenges, not only with the sanitation and the hygiene, but also the safety of those individuals.
And certainly that's essential to one's future prospects.
It certainly is.
Thank you so much. Great having you on. Brent Fewell there, founder of Earth and Water Group.